From the Dallas On Air studios in beautiful Dallas, Texas, this is Fulfillment right here on DallasOnAir.com. And now here's your host, the Vega Bomber, PJ Dunn.
Welcome, everyone, to the Fulfillment Show. Yes. We're glad that after all that turkey that you ate over the holiday weekend, that you still had some room to come back and talk to us here and talk more movies with us. So we are now in episode 23 of season 4, and today we are talking about the most anticipated movies of 23. And in that same vein, we've also asked a special guest to come back because he never stopped being special just because he wasn't on the show. We brought back Christoper Moore again, also known as the Maestro. Say hi to everyone, please.
Hi, everyone, and this is just proof again that I have a face for radio.
That's right, and then somehow we're gonna have
Thanks for agreeing.
We're gonna have a stomach for podcast, right?
Yeah. Let's hope so. Let's hope there's an appetite.
Yes, and also I could not do even any of this without that trusty sidekick and co-host. You know him as Kzach.
Greetings and salutations, campers. Welcome to DallasOnAir.com. As you can see, I'm modeling my Cereal Mom shirt today, so I'm very proud of this.
Rock on.
That's awesome. Well, today what we're going to do is we're going to jump right into the things that we are excited about, the movies that we're excited about for 2023 as 2022 is about to end. What I want to tell you is definitely be back on December 18th when we do the wrap-up of the year in movies for 2022. So we're inviting Chris back. We've got the original gangster himself, an OG. Carlos Salinas, also known as the Film Samurai, will be here. And then Horror Mike will be here as well. So we're going to have a full house to do something really, really great at the end of the year. And we also have a special announcement coming then, but we'll let that ride till then. So today, let's dive right into it. Let me give you my opening statements, and then I'm going to talk to the other heads here, and we're going to find out what we can put together individually and then together collectively. If I can just get my words out this morning, you can tell I haven't had the full cup of coffee, only half of it. So here's the idea. So 2022 is kind of limping into 2023 in terms of a movie perspective. This last quarter hasn't been one of the most popular in terms of having a lot of releases coming out, but 2023, there will be some things to be excited about. So we're excited about that. We want to keep it positive, yo. And so there are a couple of questions like, will next year's movies be better or worse than 2022? Will some of the famous directors come out and continue to diss superhero flicks, or will somebody try to defend them? Will Disney finally admit that She-Hulk was trash? And so there's so much to think about and talk about. So I need the other brains in the room to help me sort through this. So let's sort through it, shall we? So in terms of most anticipated, and we'll share at least one at the end of a film we wish wouldn't come out at all, whether it was 2023, 2024, you get the idea. But there are a couple, and I want to start with my guess and say, Maestro, what's a film next year that you're looking forward to coming out?
Oh, God, there's so many. And just this last week, 2 trailers dropped, and it got me cautiously optimistic about 2 of them. Okay. And the thing is, in the past couple of episodes, we've been talking a lot about, oversaturation. You said it in your thesis statement, oversaturation of superhero movies in general, or, less original fare. I don't even know if 2023 is going to have an everything everywhere all at once kind of moment, or there's going to be something like Bullet Train out there. We'll just have to let that unfold. But based on what we know is coming, you're right, there is a lot. And some of it was pushed back from this year for different reasons. But the top of my list, and always because it's a hero that I think hasn't gotten his due until now, is definitely top of the list is Aquaman: The Lost Kingdom. I really liked what James Wan did with the first movie. Okay. As that image that Kzach just pulled up shows, there's going to be a different suit. And what I loved was that James Wan was inspired by a comic book issue that was released in a 4-part miniseries DC published in 1984 or 85, if I'm not mistaken. And it had a different suit that wasn't orange and green, which thankfully the first movie kind of legitimizes like armor. But this new suit, the one in the 1985 comic, was meant to be like almost camouflage with ocean currents. And it was a cool idea, best suit that Aquaman could have had ever. And I wish they'd stayed with it. Unfortunately, that comic became verboten, especially from the fans of comic books, and particularly that character. But James Wan had seen it and was inspired, because I'd always wanted, as somebody who's wanted to make movies all his life, Aquaman was one of my one of the characters I would pursue. And with the statute of limitations on reboots being unlimited at this point, there's always the chance I could make an Aquaman movie. But they got it right with Jason Momoa. How do you know he wouldn't be have a bit of a Polynesian descent in this story? And how do you know he wouldn't have had? I mean, everything that I wanted to see out of that character was in that first movie, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they elevate.
You mean Aquaman being cool?
Yeah.
They actually legitimized the hell out of him in that first movie. He wasn't a joke anymore, like he was in Super Friends or something ridiculous, or like on that Batman Breaking Bold, where an animated series where they always had him go outrageous and be like this just ridiculous Arthurian like joke.
Yeah. We'll go save it from the spaceship. You go talk to some fish.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, come on. I mean, let's get beyond it. If we can legitimize a guy dressing up like a pointy-eared sonar-guided vermin, we can certainly do, or a guy that, flies around with underwear outside of his suit, I mean, come on. Yeah. We can certainly legitimize a guy that, whose space and that he occupies isn't just the air we breathe, but with an element that occupies the greatest percentage of our planet. For example,
sure.
There's more to mine out of the Aquaman legend, and so much of it is fantastic. And the fact that they're getting to explore it again is great. And they got an extra year to be able to make it great. And let's hope that they actually do.
Yeah, yeah. No, I give them props for it, because I'm not an Aquaman fan, and I grew up when Aquaman wasn't cool, and the Entourage helped to bury him and all that kind of stuff too. Because, it was. The powers that he had is like, look, if we need something done in water, I guess who we're all going to turn to, Justice League, right? So you can kind of get where some of it was kind of silly, but I do like the fact that they reimagined it and they made it better. So for the Aquaman fans, I'm sure that they're pretty excited about it, so I can appreciate that for sure.
Yeah.
How about you, Kzach? What's something that you're looking forward to in 2023?
Well, for me, the first one that came up was one that's been on my radar for a minute, and I'm so happy that it's here. I know that franchises aren't always my bag, but this definitely is, and this one is, of course, Evil Dead Rise. This is going to be an Evil Dead without Bruce Campbell. However, Bruce Campbell will be involved as a producer along with Sam Raimi and Rob Tapert. Basically, what you're getting is the Evil Dead Deadites come up and take over a high-rise skyscraper. And so the inhabitants of it are trying to battle their way down and out. So you're getting kind of maybe a touch of the movie Dread mixed in with the Evil Dead zombies. So you're basically in for a fight. You got a young cast, and again, like I said, this is going to be the another one without Ash Williams. But like I said, with it being so tied to the Evil Dead franchise, with the originators coming back, and this being a more continuation of a story, yeah, I'm definitely in for this one just because it's the Evil Dead, and I'm totally in for all of that. So
yeah.
So again, like I said, the strength of a franchise. I dug what they did with the reboot. I dug the TV show, and I think this is going to take it more back to its serious roots. So I'm totally in for this one. This one's going to be fun.
Yeah, see, that would be fun too. That's the movie that when you call up and say, "Hey, you want to go?" I'm like, "Yep, I'll be there."
Yeah, we're definitely going to go see this one because it's. I go in, with full optimism on this one, just because of the strength of the creators, just because of the strength of the franchise, and just because you have to believe in. You have to believe that if it's Evil Dead, it's going to be good, even with a schlock factor. It's going to be good.
Yeah.
See, I'm even looking forward to it a little bit. I mean, you got a lot of ones on. Both you guys have ones on your list. I wish could have been put on mine. I would have had a top 10 rather than top 5.
We don't want to talk about.
We ain't got the time of show.
We don't have that kind of time. But Evil Dead Rise, what's great about it, what I'm looking forward to is I became an Evil Dead fan like more recently. I mean, I didn't catch the wave the first time around. I was too young. But especially after Evil Dead 2, it wasn't so much scary, so much it was funny. And I'm like, the whole like hosing down of different types of color of blood. I'm like, yeah, they had fun with the Technicolor process when they were making this stuff. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
and,
fun. I hope this new one's fun.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I don't know anything about the director, Lee Cronin. Do you have any word on him?
Zero. There's a lot of new names and faces running around. A lot of them are coming up from different eras. Like I know, I just recently found out Jordan Roberts, who directed Godzilla vs. Kong, came from TV. I mean, James Wan. I mean, we know his name from all the money he's made for Warner Brothers in the unique horror space, and he got the Aquaman gig. And then you've got guys like Andy Muschietti, who did It for Warner Brothers, and that was so big. Yeah. And that led to him doing Shazam and The Flash.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah. So since you guys start out with your heavies, I guess I'll start with my heavy as well. And so I would say, and I should have said this up top, when we talk about anticipated films, for me, it means something different. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean just movies I'll go see in 2023. Anticipated means I actually have extra drive to want to go see this film. Like I'm going to go see it opening weekend.
Right.
Yeah.
Some of the movies that are coming out this year I'll go see, but I'm not going to have to be there on opening weekend. This one though, and I'm talking about the film Oppenheimer, which is coming out on July 21st, so it's around my birthday. Christopher Nolan again with $100 million budget. Coming out doing a movie with Cillian Murphy, Robert Downey Jr., Florence Pugh, Emily Blunt, and the list goes on and on and on about this particular American scientist, Robert Oppenheimer, who had a role in a huge development in leading this team to build the first atomic bomb, the ramifications of that, the government standards around all of that, and what would happen, the drama of being married, and you're married to the man who does this, and so they're going to carry all of this. They're not just going to say, here's what happened. We're going to copy the latest, BCC documentary film. We're going to tell a story. And so with Cillian Murphy as the lead actor and Emily Blunt playing his wife, and you just let them go in a Christopher Nolan way, I have got to see this film. I mean, this film is going to have to be on that level of when Inception had come out, right? And you can think of other great films that have come out. I believe this is that he needs something, because I think Tenet wasn't that great. While it was serviceable, it wasn't that great. But I feel like this, though, is going to change things, because this story itself changed the world. Oppenheimer himself changed the world. Anybody else? I know you've got this on your list as well, Chris, but your thoughts about this?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the only reason it didn't rank higher is because the thing is, Nolan, I mean, there are several great reasons to see this movie. The historical element, certainly Robert Oppenheimer himself. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're talking about the guy who quoted, I am become death, I am, that whole biblical line, as he created like the atomic bomb, for God's sake. This guy is an important historical figure. And to do him right around something as destructive as the atomic bomb, you need to have it in a big canvas. Nolan can do that. And the thing is, I think Oppenheimer is going to be more like Dunkirk, where what's brilliant about that movie is that it's a subject that has been done several times in both entertaining and sobering ways. Saving Private Ryan, The Great Escape, any World War II movie or reference around movies of that era. At least Dunkirk was far more from the British perspective, because it was at Dunkirk. It was the British Navy. It was the British, you got aviators, the whole 9 yards. But it wasn't boring. It was an hour and 48 minutes. It was low commitment. You got in, you got out. And it was when I went and saw that in theater, I went largely alone, because not everybody went to it. I went and saw a 70 millimeter print, and it was beautiful to see it in actual film and not digital. And the fact that Nolan, the fact that Nolan respects cinema so much to do it that way is amazing. He likes playing in the big canvas. The technical side of it is going to be amazing, because this is a movie where it's going to be the first IMAX film entirely in black and white. Why? Because nobody's done it before. So how is he going to play with all those gray tones? And how is he going to use that? That's going to be a different visual take for Nolan to explore. And Nolan is a big guy that plays with time. Every movie he makes, whether it's in the context of the story or the script, or the way that he tells the story in the cinematic process, he's playing with time. every single film. And that'll be interesting to see how he does it with Oppenheimer. I don't know that we're going to get a Memento with Robert Oppenheimer. I think we're going to get something, because Nolan knows that his ideas have become the institution, I think.
Absolutely. And I think we can't sleep on this, right? We can't sleep because everybody's going to talk about that, right? They're going to talk about Nolan and his directing and all that stuff. I think this is going to be very, very actor driven, because to play this, I mean, think about it. Cillian Murphy. He's already worked with 7 times. So he already knows his style. The only person that's new that he's working with here is Florence Pugh, basically in a major role, right? And maybe Emily Blunt. But when you have familiarity with the actor, like what Antoine Fuqua does with Denzel Washington Equalizer, which will come up, right? There's something that goes to the next level in the acting when you kind of already know what your director's thinking, but then you still can do your own take of it because the director trusts you to go there. So I can't wait to see that and see how he and Emily Blunt play off each other. That's going to be an amazing piece to it, too, from an acting perspective.
I would agree with you because, at the core of it, we're talking about a guy that came up with something that could just destroy lives. He came up with something destructive rather than constructive. So, I mean, what would be interesting to me, I don't know if this is Nolan's perspective. I guess we'll just have to see when, as we see more about it up into its release. But, how do you deal with the fact that you created something, that you made a weapon and it has the potential to destroy so much? I mean, the wrestling with the weight of that, the morality of that. I mean, is it going to be a morality tale? It's going to be interesting to find out how he does that.
Right. You're getting basically a very abstract concept against a historical background. It's really going to be interesting to see, because I don't know if Chris Nolan's going to play with time so much in this one, because he's got to go direct through history. So I think it's going to be more of, if he plays with time at all, I have to believe it's going to be in the concept of slowing down or speeding up, not only the political process, but also the philosophical ramifications. And of course, we're going to see destruction. That's what I'm curious about, how he portrays the destruction in it, because again, how real does it go? How abstract does it go? Because again, this is a concept that's hard to even visualize, is the fact that you've got a weapon that can literally destroy the world, and it's real.
Yeah, and if it follows the book American Prometheus, it's going to be really, really challenging. It'd be challenging to see how he could make that translate without copying it, because that's one of the most solid books out there on Oppenheimer is American Prometheus. So it's a lot. There's so much to it, and I'm sure we'll talk more about it next year. But yeah, I'm excited about that. So Chris, what else is on your list, brother?
Well, we already talked about Oppenheimer, so that my number 3 is done. And this one, you and I both have on our list at different ranks. And to me, it's really just, I'm there opening weekend and not because I'm a Tom Cruise fan, but because I love the Mission Impossible series. It's the only spy movie series that's kind of, forced the James Bond series to, level up its game. Although Mission Impossible is a lot more fun lately. I mean, James Bond has been just absolutely depressing. No Time to Die was just a depressing movie. I'm glad they're taking a break. And looking at reinvention, which is something I know you and I both want from, from film. And so we're looking at the beginning of the end of the Mission Impossible franchise as far as Tom Cruise is concerned, which is another thing I think in a way I'm looking forward to, and I'm kind of not, because, Tom Cruise, owning it lock, stock, and barrel, it needs to be set free so that other people can do some interpretations with it after some time is settled. But for the time being, you got Chris McQuarrie writing and directing, and I've been in pretty much the Mission Impossible movies. I know the first one I really loved. The second one I think was just a vanity piece in many ways, and I think everybody knew it. 3 was bringing it back. So it's like the standard trajectory of films, with something that's, the first one's a hit, the second one's, they reach for something and don't quite get there. And then the third is, something 3, the apology. And then you get to 4 and they flip everything on its head, and Ghost Protocol turns out to be really, really good. In fact, and I honestly wish it had been the second Mission Impossible movie. Then you get to, the most recent ones, Rogue Nation and Fallout. Rogue Nation I thought was one of the best. In fact, to me, it's my ranking is the first movie, Rogue Nation, Fallout, then Ghost Protocol. Only because I think every time that Chris McQuarrie has brought it forward, he's elevated the franchise. It's just, the stakes are always good. There's personal stakes for the characters. Obviously the action and visual nature of, how the story progresses is always solid. It's still got that cheek, that humor, and that charm that is inherent with this property. Although I will say, when we saw the trailer when it ran before Top Gun Maverick, my son and I were both like, we look at each other and like, I'm psyched, but he's looking at me like, oh, good, it's the Tom Cruise marathon, because there's all these shots of him running around. He's always running.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's more than that. It's just a teaser trailer, but dude, I mean, like, I want somebody on the internet, and somebody probably has on YouTube, just to cut together all the scenes of Tom Cruise running and just to bark at it like, this Saturday you'll have the Tom Cruise marathon. Will you make it to the finish line? That kind of stuff. It would be silly and fun to see that happen.
Yeah, I mean I've never been a Mission Impossible fan, so when I saw the previous, like, okay, this is again whatever. But yeah, you're absolutely right, because is Tom Cruise producing this one?
Yeah, he's been producing them all.
So a whole bunch more of slow motion hero shots of Tom Cruise.
Right. And then you got a title like Dead Reckoning Part 1. So it's like, he's trying to cap it off.
Part
he's like
1.
Almost 65, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the American Jackie Chan, basically.
That's high praise, actually.
Yes, it is. Because it's amazing what that man did. How about you, Kzach? What's another one on your list?
Well, again, we're going to go for another franchise film. We know nothing about it, and we didn't know anything about the last one on this franchise. But again, I'm going in blind, but I'm going in fairly optimistic, and that's the follow-up to Ghostbusters Afterlife. There was recently announced Jason Reitman is back in the director's chair for this one. Again, I enjoyed what they did with the last one. It was just enough member berries to get me hooked in. I like the story. I like the characters in the last one. I certainly hold out hope that they're going to give Ernie Hudson a more expanded role. I certainly hold out hope that we're going to see more of the same enjoyment that the last one gave out. So I'm in for another Ghostbusters run that's going to be coming out next December. This will be the Christmas film.
Okay. Yeah. Ghostbusters. So I did see that. I did see the one. Was it Afterlife?
Yeah.
I did see that one, and I remember I was entertained.
Yeah.
So
I thought they handled the Harold Ramis storyline with taste. I enjoyed the cameos from everyone that was willing to be in it. So, like I said, yeah, it was enough member berries to say, hey, without forcing it down your throat, kind of like Star Wars, which I know is which is the burr in your saddle or whatever. And it was just enough to keep me hooked. And like I said, as a Ghostbusters fan, as this franchise's fan, yeah, I'm in for this one.
Yeah.
So
you know what? I loved Afterlife, but
yeah.
I'm in for the sequel. I'm their opening weekend too, but I'm hoping that the writing gets a little bit stronger, because Afterlife, it's where it wins is heart and emotion.
Right.
I mean, it made you teary-eyed near the end of it. I mean, because they were very, like you said, reverential of Harold Ramis. But what I think was amiss was, you got Finn Wolfhard coming off of Stranger Things, was just sort of an obvious thing, and he was kind of a token throwaway character versus McKenna Grace, who was so much fun to watch in the whole damn thing. Mm-hmm. And you could see echoes of, okay, who's an Egon, who's a Venkman, and we need less of that. We need these characters to grow on their own and be magnetic of their own ilk.
I won't disagree. The secondary characters were really throwaways. You're right.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping in the next one that they get a better chance. Ernie Hudson definitely, but let's see him, be more than he was intended to be in the first one.
Right.
Yeah. Now, see, I wasn't teary-eyed on that. Kzach, that was the onions on my hot dog that I was eating at that moment. So I think that's what was going on, and that's what we'll just leave it at that then. No. So a film that I'm super excited about as well would be Creed 3 for several reasons. Number one, I'm a Rocky fan. I just loved the story, although they did get kind of long in the tooth after a while. But this idea coming up with the story focusing on Adonis Creed's son, and Michael B. Jordan playing him, and now seeing that Michael B. Jordan is actually going to be directing this, I now have to see this because I want to see what has Michael B. Jordan learned. Has he done like John Krasinski, who learned a lot and gave us something like A Quiet Place? Is he going to be like that? So I have to see how he's going to take this, because at this point in time, boxing movies are pretty, like any other movie can be, they're pretty tropish. Okay, you finally come in, throw the one punch that beats the one guy down, and then somebody else comes out and they beat your butt, and then we have to have another movie where you then, right? So here, I'm very, very interested, because I want to see what would he do. Also acting, because Chris, this is very difficult to be the director and then also star in it, and then this is your first film, so that's a lot of buckets of water you're carrying for yourself and then everyone else, right? So it'll be interesting to see how that translates. And basically the story is pretty similar, right? It's just he wins, he gets to the top, but then somebody from his past who's been in prison all this time finally gets out, and he's also a prodigy. And so now this guy wants to challenge him, because he's like, you've been living the good life, while us real boxers, some of us that have made bad decisions that are in prison, we should be. And so he gives this guy the shot that he probably shouldn't have. Almost sounds like Black Panther giving Killmonger a shot. Okay, anyway. So, yeah, maybe that's going there. I don't know.
Sounds a little like Clubber Lang, just saying.
Oh,
Right?
I know.
Right?
It's totally an echo of Rocky 3. I mean,
Yes.
it's slightly different, but I'll tell you what I love about it is, and I'm sorry, I'm all cutting you off and Kanyeing you here, Vega Bomber, but but what I think is great about it is we were talking a couple of episodes ago around how Ryan Coogler's perspective, especially going into Wakanda Forever, is in and of itself becoming a trope. Mm-hmm. So what I love about Michael B. Jordan directing Creed, first of all, the trailer. I mean, I don't go to boxing movies, even the Rocky movies. As I was growing up, that was just like you just accepted that it was there.
Yeah.
My big one was Rocky 3, which I saw all the time on HBO.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so I don't know that I would go and pay to see Creed 3. But I will be curious about what all the reactions are critically, box office wise, and Michael Jordan. I mean, honestly, Michael B. Jordan has a real solid chance here. He's learned from people that he's been directed by. I mean, certainly Ryan Coogler and him have had direct, director-actor relationship. So he's had a chance to learn from him. Mm-hmm. And so since Ryan Coogler's perspective may be needing a reinvention, the Creed franchise, by having Michael B. Jordan direct, may get a fresh perspective.
It will, and it's not going to have Sylvester Stallone in it, so that's either a plus or a minus. Probably both are the same. The Stallone fans are going to be mad that he's not in it, and then of course, then there'll be those that are saying we're tired of him. Come on, it's time to move on, right? So it'll be very interesting to see how the fans interact with that whole piece, because I know that was a big storyline, though it shouldn't have been. Because things have to change, they have to move on. We can't keep going back to the same well. So,
but I also got to believe that Stallone's going to be in Michael B. Jordan's ear, just because he was there. He did the same thing. He directed himself in Rocky.
For sure. I just don't know the stuff I've read on it. It just didn't seem like, it seemed like they were just being nice on camera when they asked about it. Because there's a reason. Like, why wouldn't you want Sylvester Stallone there? And so the fact that he's not going to be tells me there's something else going on there.
Okay.
Because who wouldn't want that? But what I've read is it seems like, yeah, we love him. He was great. He started this whole thing, and this is just a nod to him. Then why is he not in this one then? You mean tell me you can't write something that shows that he's still the Ben Kenobi to his Luke Skywalker? I mean,
Who knows? He might be busy. Stallone's got a lot on his plate right now.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got a ton of movies there, right?
Well, he also just got a season 2 of Tulsa King.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, but I mean, you know how it is. It's film. You can always shoot something somewhere else and then put it in and make it look like it was. I mean, we've done this before, so. Yeah. So something's interesting going on there, but don't know. So what about you then again, Chris? What's another one for you?
Oh, shoot. Okay, so I loved the Dune, the recent Dune movie, and to the point that I really wish that I had gone to see it in the theaters. Because of the pandemic, we stayed home and HBO Max and saw it that way. So I'm hoping it'll get re-released so I can see it before I see part 2. And it's going to be interesting because I've finished reading the book recently, and knowing where they stopped the story. The first one was very respectful of the book. It got a lot right that the 1984 movie didn't.
Okay.
And especially when it comes to the Fremen and their culture. They got the whole cultural thing down, and the matter of respecting cultures more prescriptive in what Denis Villeneuve did in the first Dune movie. Now what they've got to do in 2 is exhibit the jihad that comes after when when Paul Atreides becomes the Kwisatz Haderach. I want to see how that transpires. I want to know how Denis Villeneuve is going to visually represent that. What's so great about Villeneuve is that he creates a big screen canvas, and yet you accept it because it's all organic on screen. It doesn't overwhelm you, but it does envelop you in a slight way. He does that. He works with these characters. He's getting the best performances. And the thing that the 1984 film could never do that the book had to was, at least, well, the 1984 film did this a little bit, but, there's a greater weighting on Paul trying to figure out, at first he was navigating whether or not he was going to accept his destiny in this first movie, but in part two, it's going to be dealing with the weight and ramifications of him being this being and what it means, what it's going to do, how it's going to change the face of the universe. And with big stakes like that on a galactic scale, and with some of them being more personal, those are going to be interesting. And I mean, on top of that, I can't wait to see what Hans Zimmer does with the rest of the score. He's been like noodling at the score for months and months and months at this point. So from somebody who appreciates the film score perspective, that one's going to be a great experience, I think, as part of it, because that's a big part of that film.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. Yeah, I didn't see Dune yet. I know people will want to throw things at me for that, but I was never really a big Dune fan. So I know this is an unpopular opinion, which is not to say that it probably wasn't crafted well and done well. It's just I just had very low to no interest, and I think that's the reason why I didn't see it.
Yeah, I too have skipped on the Dune franchise because, again, sometimes there's so much nerddom out there. There's so much out there that you just kind of have to pick and choose your franchise.
I know.
But like I said, Chris, you and I had a lot of friends who recommended this film who stand behind Villeneuve's direction, and of course the stellar cast: Timothée Chalamet, Zendaya, all of those. Just it shows promise. And like I said, for those into the Dune franchise, this is definitely going to be a huge one, especially with the introduction of the new big bad, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've got Austin Butler, who recently came off of the Elvis film, and he's Fade Routha, so we'll get to see him. Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm blanking on who was cast as the Emperor, but it's a big name. I think it's Christopher Walken, actually, and he plays the known Emperor of the universe, Emperor Shaddam IV. Mm-hmm. And of course, I can't wait to see the Baron. You only got to see a little bit of Stellan Skarsgård be this, awful character that the Baron Harkonnen is. And I'm looking forward to seeing more of what that is, especially in relation to Fade, because Baron Harkonnen and Fade, they are the antithesis of Paul Atreides and every mentor he's ever had, and that father-son relationship. So Fade was always intended to emerge from the shadows as the dark version of Atreides. Yeah. And so we'll have to see what... If they're able to make that something that's interesting and not to see on film, because the 1984 film is just they threw Sting in rubber underwear,
yeah,
and you didn't know what the hell this character meant at all. Whereas in the book he was very much groomed to be the antidote to what Paul was.
Okay. What about you, Kzach? What's another good one?
Well, for me, I heard 2 words, and I said, "Shut up and take my money," and that is Cocaine Bear.
Cocaine Bear. It will take your money. Cocaine.
Cocaine Bear. Cocaine Bear gets my money because again, you have Elizabeth Banks writing and directing, basically expanding on a true story. Mm-hmm. But just basically in that story, the bear just ingested a bunch of cocaine and rolled around. This is going to be a full out horror film of just a huge CGI bear attacking people in the woods high on cocaine. I don't need to go into anything more than that. Just like I said, as soon as I saw the visuals, as soon as I saw the trailer, it's like, yeah, I'm in for this for no other reason than it's just going to be probably the dumbest film to come out this year. And that's what's just going to make it awesome because, again, it's hard to go wrong with those 2 words, cocaine and bear.
Right?
There's no getting around exactly what this film is. This film is going to give you exactly what it promises you, and that's a bear high on cocaine. But I mean, you're going to get Ray Liotta in one of his last roles as the drug kingpin. You're going to get some goofy characters. Going to get Kerry Russell as a kind of a mom on the run. You're basically just going to get a ton of insanity, and that's what, for me, to go into a theater on something unproven. It's just like, it has to be either a really solid story or it has to be completely outrageous, and the outrage in this one is definitely going to get my money. It's probably going to be terrible, but it's going to be terrible in the most fun way, and for me, that is exactly what I look for in a movie. So yeah,
I can say yes, that's true, y'all. He ain't lying. He ain't lying.
Yeah.
No, I saw the trailer for this, and I have to agree. I don't know that I'll pay to see it opening weekend, but okay, props to Elizabeth Banks.
Yeah.
For going into something like this, coming off of her work on Pitch Perfect or Charlie's Angels, and she's going something completely original, probably the most original idea we'll see all of 2023. Although I have to say, it has the potential to be 2023's Snakes on a Plane.
Exactly.
Because we're operating on a title. It's very much like the Piranha paradigm, and I'm talking The Good Piranha by Joe Dante.
Yeah.
Where it's like something so off the rails, you're looking at this and you're thinking, okay, yeah, I gotta. It's like the train wreck mentality. You don't want to stare, but you can't look away. Kind of thing.
Again,
How much?
I can't, and again, it's going to give you exactly what it promises you. There's no getting around what this story is. It's a bear high on cocaine, running and rampaging through the woods.
How about that?
Yep. Here you go. Here you go. Yeah.
Well, one of the ones I picked to pick something different, because I wanted to throw something in there that maybe I wouldn't have thought of at first. But my next one would be the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Now, the first one that had come out really won some awards for storytelling in terms of graphic and doing the artistry piece of it and how it told the story there, which I thought was pretty interesting. But what I like here is that you have a star-studded cast again doing the voices. So you got Oscar Isaac playing the Spider-Man of 2099. You got Haley Steinfeld playing, Ghost Spider. And Shameik Moore, who was in this last Candyman, plays Miles Morales. And then you had Brian Tyree Henry. A lot of people like him, Jefferson Davis. And you have Issa Rae playing Spider-Woman, and Daniel Kaluuya, who wasn't even in Black Panther, but he's in this one. So I think this is one of those ones where they're smart. They realize that let's just call it part one, then do a part two, rather than doing a 3-hour movie, because this clocks in at just an hour 55, and I like that. I like that they can say, listen, there's more to tell, but we're not going to try to cram it into the next 45 minutes after the first hour. They're just going to do a part two. It looks like Mission Impossible is going to do the same thing. They're going to do a part one, then a part two. And I'm interested in seeing how that works when you keep it to 2 hours, but then have people come back rather than trying to overload them with a bunch of stuff. I'm interested in see how that works as well.
I have to agree. I loved Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Here's my thing is, when I came out of that, I mean, it opened in the same December that Aquaman did, and I'm like, wow, we're lucky that we have a December with like 4 really great movies opening at that time. The top 2 were those, Aquaman and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I came out of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse thinking, this is the best Spider-Man movie ever made. I don't care if it's live action or animation. This is the best one. The emotional story is great. You still got the Peter Parker story there. It actually subverted a lot of expectations by leaning into, like, yeah, you know this story, and the way that they told that. The artistry was there. The storytelling was there. The character depth was there. And you couldn't look away from this film. And to the point that it's like, yeah, I thought No Way Home was really entertaining, I guess, but it's still like every one of the live action Spider-Man films, something was always missing. And Into the Spider-Verse got it right. I'm fully behind the idea of seeing this next one and its follow-up. Just ready to go. Just make sure you don't fall into your own tropes in the process.
Yes. Yeah, it was solid storytelling.
Yes.
That's the thing that's been missing in a lot of films. Like I said, these guys actually made every second count on screen. You're right, Chris. You couldn't look away, and you didn't really want to. You didn't. At no point did you check out on this film, on that first Spider-Man film. And again, like I said, you're getting the new hero, Miles Morales, which unless you read the comic books, not someone you're terribly familiar with, but you really grow to love and cheer for this kid. You really have, like I said, you have a solid cast. This one is absolutely anticipated because it was probably the most solid comic book movie in probably the last 10 years. To be really honest with you, because everything holds together. The guys who wrote it knew how to tell a story and execute it perfectly.
Yeah, it's almost like this was the anecdote to say, hey, y'all, let's get away from just green screen acting. Let's show you when it's just actors who have to come in and read something and then try to imagine what's there because it's not there. And then they might do some storyboards to show them some things. But I like the idea that the actors, when they're sitting here having to read this, they're having to imagine more rather than someone say, you're in front of a green screen, don't worry about it, just read the line. So you have to put more into it. And so I think that's what made that story pop more because you felt for little Miles Morales and you said, yeah, if I were him, I'd probably be the same way. And if my dad dropped me off in front of school and did all that, that would be embarrassing. I mean, everybody could relate to there's something universal. And that's what these films keep getting away from. They keep getting away from the universal theme and they're moving to this theme that's always about selling the next sequel or the next product that's coming out. And it's not even, so this film didn't have to do that. It just said, hey, what if you're in Brooklyn and you want to be a superhero? Well, first of all, just putting in Brooklyn changes it, right? Yeah. That's a different part of town. One of the 5 boroughs, it's one of the roughest areas. So what would come out of something that destitute that's positive? And here he is, Miles Morales.
Yeah, and it fully embraces the absurdity of the multiverse, too.
Absolutely.
Which, like I said, you have Nick Cage going all in. You have Spider-Ham all in, Spider-Gwen, all of that. Yeah. Totally like the characters, totally like the absurdity. It was a movie that you liked all the way through.
Yeah.
See, I want my Spider-Ham series. I'm just saying. I want a Spider-Ham animated series because I'm ready for Peter Porker. And here's something else out of that. When you mentioned Brian Tyree Henry, I mean, this will be his chance to be in a Marvel movie that's actually good, for one. Because, I don't have the biggest amount of love for Eternals. But Brian Tyree Henry needs his own show. Like him driving the force behind it because he's entertaining to watch. He was great in Bullet Train. He was fantastic in Bullet Train. He's the big reason to see it.
Yeah. So what's another one for you, Chris, on your list?
Okay, so I'm a sucker for good action movies, and as much as we've seen action infused in some great, big tentpole franchise, stories, I'm ready for John Wick Chapter 4. I am so down for John Wick 4. I mean, the first movie, I had to be like coaxed into seeing the first 2, and by the time that the second one was out, my wife and I, we rented both of them and finally saw it, and then went to the theater to see John Wick 3 because we liked those first ones so much. Now, if you're a huge fan of dogs, a dog lover, a dog owner, dog parent, you're not going to like the first John Wick movie, but you're going to get revenge porn out of it. That's for sure. But they encapsulated this really intriguing world that they keep pulling you into, this entire assassin world that keeps getting more and more enveloped and expanded with each one. John Wick has become almost a mytho of its own, which was established in the first one and retold in the second one in a way, almost like they did with the El Mariachi and Mad Max franchises. But now we're getting this bigger, expansive world, and I want to know more about it all. And I'm very entertained by it, as long as they're not just stretching this out just to keep franchise money going. And they keep making it entertaining, then that'll be great. And they've had some extra time to make it, even better, because originally it was going to open against The Matrix before pandemic plans kind of, obliterated the crap out of a lot. And now we don't have to see, Keanu Reeves going head to head against himself in the same release span space. And now we get a character like he's been through so much. What are the new personal stakes for John Wick? I want to know what those are. I mean, he's out for revenge. He's out for blood and out for war. He was already doing that. So what's new about this? but the trailer looks really solid. I mean, we're in a glut for good action movies, and I'm like talking like back when the idea wasn't the institution, when Die Hard didn't have 5 movies and Lethal Weapon didn't have 4 movies.
Yeah.
When we had new ideas in that space. The problem is that action was pretty much the new Western, and Westerns kind of played themselves out until they became Oscar-winning reinventions like Unforgiven or 310 to Yuma, that kind of thing.
Yeah, Grit.
And True Grit, right. And so now action movies, I think, need a renaissance. And these guys like David Leitch and, directors like that who were, all coming along the way with John Wick and bringing that forward, Chad Stahelski, guys who used to be stunt people, really wanting to, dive deeper in how to present action to you from a technical process, hand-to-hand combat. What can we show you that's different than you've seen before? Now we're getting more of that. They're being more inventive. New minds and fresh ideas are coming forward in that genre. And so I'm really looking forward to that.
Mm-hmm. Some of it is, though. I think
some.
I think Marvel superhero movies and the DC superheroes are hurting you because they're using the same stunt fight people. So actually, I would argue just the opposite. A lot of it's the same thing. The difference is that they're doing the car chases different and then the explosions different. But when they get into the hand-to-hand pieces, I saw one where it was one of the James Bond ones where the female that was on the protagonist side flipped up and did the same thing that Black Widow did in Civil War. So they're actually borrowing each other. So I think you're right. I like action films, but unfortunately, because there's a superhero movie every other month, and they hire the same stunt people to come in, we're getting a lot of the same styled moves. People are using the same finishing move almost, and then so there's some of that. So it's kind of like some are more frenetic and fast, so you don't have to think about it. But when they actually slow down and show the nice fisticuffs, which they won't do that very much now because a lot of it looks very similar. So they keep it moving pretty fast, right? And that was one thing I figured out that as I was watching, because see, that's the problem with Marvel movies and the other DC movies coming out with all the fight scenes in it. Well, with those coming out as fast and as much as they do, you're wearing out all the different moves, right? So unless you study every martial art, which they don't, then you're going to have the same types. There's only so many ways you can throw a punch. There's only so many ways you can do American boxing, right? So it's kind of like if you don't understand how to throw something in there besides just jujitsu, then you're going to get a lot of the same looking stuff from a stand-up perspective, and then they don't really do much ground fighting, and then the rest of it is just pulling something from the side, off the side to smack. This is actually my field of court, right? I study when they start showing fight scenes, and it's amazing how people don't realize they're watching the exact same fight scene from Superman, from Batman, from Hawkman, from this or whatever, But it's because of how they shoot it and how they turn it, the camera angle to try to make it look different, and then you kind of don't. So like a great one to go see that I saw last, it was a great fight scene, was in one of the James Bond movies where it was Baptista was the bad guy, and they fought in a train in a very narrow place.
Spectre, yeah.
Spectre, yes. That was a fight scene. Go back. I promise. I challenge anybody here. If you want to see a good fight scene, go back to Spectre. Because part of what makes a good fight scene work is when people swing and miss and hit other things. And that should hurt if you freaking hit a cabinet when you were trying to hit somebody's head, and you see Baptista do this whole but he had to keep fighting, and I'm like, that's a fight. But this other stuff where people wait for the cook to come in, wait for the uppercut, wait for them to jump onto their shoulders and then flip them when they're doing that, that's BS. That's crap. So I like it when the fight scene goes and it's like that's what people really would do in a space. They would really hit other things and it would hurt, or they would grab anything they could grab to try to just do anything to try to stop this guy, especially if you see that he's bigger than you, right? And that's what you see Daniel Craig doing. It's like Baptista's so huge and imposing and he's coming so fast, he'll grab anything to stick it in his eye, his neck, or anything to try to stop it, and it's believable. So go back and watch that train sequence, and then go back and watch any of the movies today that are showing fight scenes, and you'll see a huge difference.
See, I have to agree with you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
I'm sorry. I have to agree with you. I mean, that even though Spectre, the whole conceit of the fight on the train is an echo of From Russia with Love. They just, elevated it, or they tried to. And what's great about John Wick is that, you cut him, he bleeds. A lot of the stuff you're talking about, it was in there in the first one. And the trick now is that, they're having to, up the ante with each sequel. And John Wick 3, it's just, if you're already in, you're bought in. And none of these fight scenes mean anything if the story isn't there to a point you've made several times.
Mhm.
That's the thing that I'm going to be curious about with John Wick. It's like, this is a guy that's wanting out. He's a guy that doesn't want to be in his space anymore. Was out and got sucked back in, and I want to know, how is he going to get out for good? What's going to want to make him stay out? Because he had a great tether to
Yes.
stay out in originally. That the most beautiful part of the John Wick story is that love got him out. Is love going to get him back out again? What's going to bring him full circle as a character? And
Yeah.
hopefully they can do it with some good execution where it's not just a bunch of fight scenes all like, yeah, we're going to do this because it looks cool. I mean, Mission Impossible suffers the same problem, right?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. If it gets too outlandish, then it kind of dissolves the tension of the fight. Like, what's the cost of this fight? Because somebody's got to be maimed or killed, and if they don't have that, but they're both well-trained fighters, you're kind of going, well, what were you doing? Just practicing? Because when you know how to kill somebody, that shouldn't look like, okay, you punch, now I punch. Hey, now you throw a kick, now I throw. It shouldn't look like that. It should look like, no, these people are going for kill shots because they know the quicker you get it over, the less you have to worry about tiring out because of stamina, because stamina will get you. So whenever anybody's ever watched boxing, know that those boxers, by the time they get to the 5th and 6th round, those punches are not coming in as hard, and they're not as precise because they're getting tired. It takes a lot to throw these big meat hooks if you've got big, heavy arms and a big, body. It's hard, right, to continue to contain that. So every fighter that knows this is a life or death fight, that fight should not go on for 6 hours. Well, it seems like 6 hours. That fight should be almost over within a minute and a half, because if you truly know your craft, you know how to take someone out. And you're going to get there as fast as you can, with whatever style, whatever advantage you can get, whether it's in the darkness or whether it's because you got things in your hands, right? And so some of these, like, you can tell when they're glorifying it because it's going on way too frickin' long, and fights don't last that long. If you ever watch a real fight, a street fight for sure, they don't go longer than 2 minutes.
And sometimes that's played to comical effect. I mean, I harken back to They Live from 1988. I mean, that was like a 5-minute fight between Roddy Piper and Keith David. And I'm watching that thing. The whole goal of that fight is he wants to get him to see. He's having to beat the crap out of him to do it. And it's silly as all get out. I remember when that was released, all anybody could talk about that movie was the fact that they had this silly ass 5-minute fight right in the middle of the film.
Right. It's a silly ass fight, but also it's probably one of the more realistic fights ever on screen, because again, they really are kind of going for it. They're basically just, there's groin shots, there's, drops into the dumpster, and all he's trying to do is just get him to put on a pair of sunglasses. And it is just basically two meatheads going at each other for 5 minutes. But by the same token, that's a fantastic street fight, because that's the way they look.
Yeah.
Because by the end of it, they're bloody, they're tired, they're worn out, and they're not coming out of that, they're both coming out of it with damage.
Yeah. So to that, I would only say one thing. You're right about the aesthetics and how they play that out. But I'm telling you, as a guy who's been in some street fights, they don't go on for 5 minutes. No possible way. That means you don't know how to throw a punch. So if you really know how to throw a punch, it doesn't take long to knock somebody out. It really doesn't if you know how to throw a punch. So when people are taking ridiculous damage, you're not going to make it. You're just not. Your stamina goes away. Everything else goes away. So I've never, ever, and I've been in at least 10 street fights. And another reason why they don't work is because other people jump in who have nothing to do with the fight. And then they come in and hit you with a bottle and knock you out. And, I mean, stuff goes crazy. And most of these fights have been inside of clubs or in bars, because I've always been at bars because of music, and then there'd be fights afterwards because people want to talk to your girl and they want to disrespect you. And if you don't do something bad will happen, right? And so I'm used to these fights and watching these fights. And I can tell you, I've seen some of the biggest dudes. They don't go on. In fact, the bigger that you are, the quicker you're going to tire out, because it takes a lot of energy to throw those big meat hooks. If you're the little guy, get out of the way and then get on his back and choke his ass out, because if he gets his hands on you, you're done. So it's interesting how everybody, like, you have to be in a fight to really understand it, right? When you elevate to a certain space where your body's tingling, because it really is fight or flight, and if this big dude gets hands on me, I'm done. So you're going to grab anything you can to get this thing over with. People don't like to fight any more than people like to go to the dentist. You only fight because this asshole won't leave you alone. And so you just hope that you can get out of the way, grab something, and end it. but nobody wants to have a 5-minute fight. 5 minutes is a long time. Think about how long the knee was up against George Floyd's neck. That was, what, a minute and something?
9 minutes.
Right, 9 minutes? That seemed long. Now, imagine someone sitting there trying to swing and muster on someone who's moving, someone who's got weapons, and then a bunch of other people who are not related to the fight jumping into the fight. Like, that. The thing that's so scary about street fights is they never go to anybody's plan, because anything can happen, anything can be used as a weapon, and anybody can jump in at any given time. And most people jump in, especially if they see their friend getting their ass kicked, they'll jump in. And now it's 2 guys against 1, then it's 3 guys against 1. I mean, this is how it happens. So it's very scary, and it's very ugly. And fighting is not something you want to do. I got scars to prove it's not stuff you want to do. So it's just interesting when I've seen that, and then, of course, being a big MMA guy, watching real fights too, I just know that you're just not going to take shots like that forever and be okay. It just has to get to a quicker resolve. But, again, did that hurt the movie? No. I laughed. I thought that was funny as shit when they were doing that, right? Because I was able to suspend my belief, in that. If that helps. Kzach, you're next. What's up, bro?
All right. So, I'm going to go ahead and drop my last one because we got to get into this. We got to get into this part of it.
Sure.
And that's going to be Ant-Man Quantumania.
Okay.
This is basically. We finished up MCU Phase 4, right? We're in Phase 4, Phase 5. What? Basically,
Phase 4.
It's
Thank
4.
you. All right. So
Yeah.
basically, at this point, this is kind of, for me, the reason why I'm anticipating is because this is kind of my last hope for Marvel to put out something decent. I'm watching the trailers and I'm going, okay, I'll give you this one because I'm in for these heroes, but everything that's been in this last phase has just been nothing burger after nothing burger after nothing burger. This is what we've been kind of building up to, getting the new big bad involved. I'm in for it just because I'm kind of giving Marvel this last chance on this one. But what makes me really nervous is that coming up in July, you've got 3 on top of each other. You've got Kraven the Hunter, Blue Beetle, and the Marvels all coming out within like 2 months of each other. At this point, that's complete burnout. And I feel that this is either going to be very much make or break for Marvel in the way they go with Marvel projects coming up, because this is going to kind of be either you're in for solid storytelling or you're completely out for what they're going to offer. And I only get optimistic because I like what Peyton Reed's done, because I like Paul Rudd, because I like Michael Douglas. I'm in for this one. But it's kind of, you're about to lose me as a regular goer to these films, and I'm going to stay home and just watch them on Disney Plus when they come out.
Yeah.
I'm
Totally
at
makes
that point.
sense.
I'm at that point.
Totally makes sense. I'm already there. So my final one, so we can jump into our second topic, which is the one that we don't want to see. My final one is Equalizer 3. Unpopular opinion. I love this way better than John Wick any day of the week. I think Equalizer 1 was fantastic if you haven't seen it. Equalizer 2, unfortunately, was a disappointment, so I'm hoping 3 will be well. You've got Antoine Fuqua directing Denzel Washington. First of all, who sees Denzel Washington as this kind of action hero? But he has been. He did Man on Fire and a few other films. But in this advanced age, he comes off a lot better than the way Liam Neeson does in Taken, right? And at the end of the Takens, when you can see that Liam Neeson couldn't run anymore, but they still put him in chase scenes. It was so crazy. But here, they don't do that to him. It goes right back to what we know, especially as martial artists. Your job is not to fight somebody for an hour. It's to get it over with quick, because you don't know if there's another attacker coming. So the Equalizer is that way. I like the fact that he sits back. He's somebody who's former U.S. Marine military and former DIA, not CIA, DIA, Defense Intelligence for the American military. This is a badass. F you if you think you're going to walk in with somebody who's a DIA, because he's not just a badass fighter. He's 10 times smarter than you, right? So when you have the Equalizer and it's Denzel Washington playing the cool, calm dude who can wreck your whole team in 5 seconds because he's already thinking about the exit strategy. He already knows he's going to take you out. It's just, how can I do it in fewer moves so I can take less damage and get out of here, which, again, is what fights are supposed to be about. So he did this well. Plus the story behind Equalizer is better, right? Because here's a guy who's just trying to get away from that life, but he sees everyday common people getting pulled into some bullshit that they don't have the knowledge or the wisdom to, or the power to stop it from happening. So he has to jump in and save them, because who else would? So I love that humanity that he has still, even though he's a killing machine, and he could kill anyone, and he could plan your demise with 3 moves and get out of there before anybody knew he was there. Okay, that's what kind of level of dude that we're dealing with. So I like that. The John Wick stories are lean, boring to me. They're just, hey, the bad guys heard that there's a guy named John Wick, so you want to steal his dog, a dude that you already know is a. So a lot of that made no sense, but I get why a lot of people like it, because I did like the second one, and then I did like the third one. But the introduction to him, Equalizer, go watch Equalizer, then watch John Wick and tell me which one's the better story, better narrative, better everything. It just has more pull, more soul, more everything, because you feel for this quiet recluse who could take your head off, but he doesn't. He could take a lot of people's heads off, but he doesn't, because it's just not his life anymore. And yet he seems to run into problem people who, if he didn't step in, these people would be hurt, murdered, prostituted, or something else.
Yeah. I get so reticent about action movies and going to see them in theaters, just because, like I said, we've seen so much of it all before.
True.
We've seen the same tropes. We've seen the same fights. We've seen the same, all of it. It's going to take a lot to get me into a theater to go see an action film anymore. Like I said, you know, Chris and I are going to kind of vary on this, just because I know you'll go in for a lot of the big, you know, the Tom Cruise, the proven franchise and things like that, John Wick, etc. I'm not going to go in because that as a casual moviegoer and as more of a horror guy, I've seen it all before. I don't need to see it. If I'm going to go watch action, I'm going to go back and I'm going to go see some Jackie Chan. I'm going to go pop up Bruce Lee Enter the Dragon for the 23rd time. Yeah. I'm going to go in and go get my diet from the guys who did it first and probably did it better.
Yeah.
That's just for me. You know, I know that you know, I identify with the Equalizer, the Denzel Washington franchise, because again, you admire the fights, you admire the way that they're put together. It's going to be a hard draw for me, but if you give me something that I haven't seen before, I mean, you give me something like Old Boy or Preacher, using kind of the same shot, using that one shot. Give me something that I haven't seen before, and you'll get me in. Yeah. But the thing is, when I see these trailers, when I see these ads for all these, you know, franchises that we've seen over and over again, it's like, what are you still doing? What are you less than, better than, or different than? If you're better than or different than, then I'll go. But I'm not getting better than or different than. Yeah. So I'm hopeful optimistically that you're going to go into this and you're going to go see something that you haven't seen before. Yeah. Because otherwise you're going to be bored and you're going to check out on the franchise real quick. It's like you did with Black Panther 2.
Yep.
Well, and that's the thing is the way, PJ, the way you described it, I'm much more interested in it than I would have been having seen those ads. Because the biggest problem with The Equalizer is that, and like
the TV show sucks. And having Queen Latifah doing that, and so people might assume, oh, must be like the TV show. No, the movie was way better. But go ahead.
Well, see, but that's the point, is that in the marketplace we've got a concurrent 2 different versions of the same franchise. It's not like that hasn't happened before, but it does create confusion for audiences. On top of that, I mean, they got to get better at their marketing campaign for The Equalizer. The first one kind of flew under the radar, and so did the second one. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to have a third one, obviously, and there must be something there, you know, that makes somebody invest in it. Like, and you just described it perfectly. The marketing boys need to call you up and tell you, so they can get a decent idea of how to market this, because everything you're talking about is completely universal.
Yes.
And worth seeing. Now, the trick is that it is a cool idea. And it goes back to the 1988 series with Edward Woodward, the same, you know, construct, although they were limited as to what they could do at the time, because they were, you know, there was a cool conceit to it that didn't really translate over into the new movie and its marketing that I saw. And so I was kind of like, okay, it's Denzel Washington. It's understood this guy is a good actor. You don't get away from that. Nobody can, you know, disagree.
Yes.
That Denzel Washington's a good actor.
A proven property.
I'm sorry.
Property. He's a proven property.
He's a proven property. And so is Antoine Fuqua by this time. But what's funny is that Antoine Fuqua, he's also flying under the radar too a little bit. And he should be. I'm hoping he can get projects that are more out in front. I loved what he did, even though it was it was just a reboot or remake. We talked about this before, but I loved what he did with the Magnificent Seven. I thought it was a great take on the material.
It was good.
I'm hoping I'm not wrong on this, but I know Training Day was a lightning rod. In terms of the kind of, it was like
it got Denzel an Oscar.
It did, and on top of that, it was
Sympathy
like
Oscar.
it was in the vein of L.A. Confidential. It showed police corruption in a way that had never been shown before. Antoine Fuqua deserves a bigger property, or just something that's more out in front, because he's a solid ass director. He came from the '90s MTV, music video direction world, same as Michael Bay, same as F. Gary Gray, and F. Gary Gray is a good one too. He did great with The Negotiator, The Italian Job, and he's made a lot of great movies. Both him and Antoine Fuqua, these guys are the new action directors that you can think of when you think of it. They're elevating the brand better than Michael Bay or anybody that's doing the same crap over and over again. Like, how many times can you go to the direct-to-video store or go through the bottom feeder sections of Prime Video and see the latest Steven Seagal movie, which is just utter crap? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And this feeds into Zach's point. It's just the action movie, nowadays is really getting undercut by, trying to do that bottom feeder, like, let's get something, make some quick cash. It's becoming the same as like the surfing movies from American International back in the 60s. It's like, we're just making something just to make a buck. And we're not really trying, to a point that you've often made, PJ. Just, if we're not going to do it for a good reason, why the hell are we doing it?
Yeah, I mean, anybody can make money by just doing the same thing over and over and over again. I guess that works if you're in a manufacturing plant. You need consistency of product. But when you're talking about movies, we're supposed to be able to go different places and see different things, because you can literally do anything. You can film anything. You can get actors who can display almost anything, and you just need to put them in situations. And so I think for you, Kzach, what you're saying there is, if you watch The Equalizer, I think, while you probably wouldn't say I'm this big convert to all action films, I think what you say is, I appreciate the fact that they did the non-action thing here. The reason that action films work well for me is not because you just show guys kung fu fighting every 10 minutes. No, the best action films make you care about the dude, so that if he gets his ass kicked, you feel something. If he gets killed or beaten within inches of his life, you feel something. And here they reversed it, because they said, here's a dude you just can't do nothing to. So if he happens to be in your neighborhood, like Reacher, right, and he happens to see some woman getting her purse snatched with these thugs around her and all this other stuff, or the Russian mafia coming in, capturing these women and turning them into prostitutes, he struggles, because he goes, I'm supposed to move on, I'm supposed to move on, I'm supposed to be somebody else. And they show you him being the person who eats at the same place, keeps everything neat because he likes things in him. They show you he can't sleep. He's an insomniac. They give you so much about him to where when you see it, you go, please kick his ass, Denzel. Please don't let him do this to this woman. And he sits there and you watch him struggle with doing the right thing, because he's done the right thing, but for other reasons, for the military, for things that weren't. And he lost his wife because of it. And so he's just trying to say, let me just be a man that lives, even though I know some incredible stuff, both defensively and right? And so when you see that, and only Denzel shows you that, he brings that through. It isn't like, oh, you killed my dog, well, now I need to go kill you. That's too boring and simple and dumb for me. I hated that crap. But here I went, oh, what's Robert McCall going to do? I mean, I know he's going to have to fight. It's an action film. But I love the fact that he struggles with it, because he knows, right? He knows. And so to see that much depth put into an action film, when usually it's not, it's just guys punching each other until they find a way to knock the other guy out, they resist that here. And then when they do show the fight scenes, you're rewarded. So if you haven't seen the first Equalizer, I'm going to tell both of you guys, you need to go watch it and just sit back. It went under the radar because it's an action film that actually has more heart and more soul than most of them.
And that's kind of inherent with the original source content. That was the whole point.
Yeah, yeah. So let's do this, ladies and gentlemen, because we are running up on time. We're having such a great discussion, and we always do when we get together like this. Let's talk about 2023 real quick. Just one film. One film that when you saw it on the sheet that said, here are the new movies coming out, you went, oh, God, really? Do we really need that film? Does that film need to exist? And so, Chris, my guess, what's a film that you're going, what? Really? movie.
And Chris, before you do this one, I know you and I kind of chose the same thing, so I'm going to go different when it gets to me.
Honestly, I think we should just, combine forces against this one because, quite frankly, it's like, as much as we like action movies, I swear to God, if I see another It's All About Family and Hearts coming out of Fast X, Fast 10, I'm like, dude, I actually even spent money and took my son to see Fast and Furious 7. I still haven't seen Fast 9. No, we saw Fast 8. Sorry. Now, some of these movies are fun. These are really, they can be fun in moments, but in totality, I mean, the first one I thought was just basically Point Break with cars. The second one is not John Singleton's finest work ever at all. I mean, he did much better work than that. And then you get, I mean, no offense to the guys that have been involved with it since then, from 3 forward. I'm like, but now you're really just, dragging this crap out. It just, at a certain point, you should just stop. I don't care about Vin Diesel's character anymore. I thought, here's what I honestly think. Even though Riddick was a really not a great movie, I really think that I wish Vin Diesel would return to that character. I'd rather see more Riddick movies now. Maybe at least just how about a series on Peacock or something like that.
Right.
I'd rather see that than have to sit through Fast X. I would rather have one of those neon NOS-infused cars drag my ass across asphalt than have to sit through another Fast and Furious movie.
I'm with you.
There's so much in this franchise now, you don't care about it. I mean, the people who go to see it are the same people who went to see Smokey and the Bandit back in the 70s. You're going to go see Car X. You're basically going to a NASCAR race and waiting for someone to turn right rather than left. You're not going to see guys going around in the circle. You're going to see the train wrecks, and that's exactly what it is. This franchise is based on train wrecks all the way through. And there is nothing, I repeat, nothing that's going to get me into the theater to see this one.
Yep.
None. And for me, the one that I'm not going to go see, Chris, you might, because I see behind you, you've got a Flash T-shirt back there.
In the TV show.
There's nothing that's going to get me into a theater to go see the Flash movie. I hate the DC movies. I have no desire to go see Ezra Miller. There is, and I mean, I know exactly what's coming. This thing is going to be so problematic. I just cannot bring myself to care. I know the Flash TV series is, for a lot of folks really dig it. But I mean, I have no interest in this version of the Flash. I've never been interested in the Flash, period. And this is just a completely uninteresting hero, a completely uninteresting franchise, and it's almost become a completely uninteresting comics line at this point, just because I so don't care. The only thing that has me even got my brain itching, is that James Gunn posted to his Instagram a picture of Alex Ross's Kingdom Come.
Yeah.
That has potential.
Yeah.
Because that's such a solid story.
Yes.
I would love to see Cavill versus Levi.
Yeah.
Give me that.
Yeah.
Give me some, give me a reason to go see it, because like I said, I will go see superheroes broken. I'm not going to go see superheroes doing dumb shit.
Yeah.
I'm just not.
See, the Flash didn't make my list either, only because I'm not an Ezra Miller fan, and
I'm not
it really should just we should just be judging the film on its own merits, not on the personal lives of the actors. They honestly, it used to be the same problem that I know a lot of people have with Tom Cruise. They won't go see Mission Impossible or Top Gun because of his controversial values, and I'm like, honestly, at a certain point, I'm so done with celebrity stuff. I just here's my thing. They do their job. They go home. I see their movies. I go home. Yeah. I'd rather it just be that. I don't want to know anything about celebrity activity whatsoever.
Plus, they had so many reasons politically to drop the film, but because they've got so much invested in not only that movie, but also the future of the DC franchise, they have to put it out. It really sucks.
Yeah.
And they're in a no-win
it's-
scenario.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how it turns out more for that than the film itself, which is sad.
Especially
Yeah.
since you can't put your star out to go do PR for it because he's an unpredictable mess.
Yes. God.
Yeah. Yeah.
They can't support the guy. They can't support the star. How are they going to support the movie?
Yeah. Well, the one I chose, it's funny that we're talking about superheroes because the movie I'm like, you can miss me with this from now till the time I'm not breathing, is this Marvel's movie that's coming. First of all, I do not like Brie Larson at all. And even in the first movie, right, because I went to go see it still, and that movie was dumb. That movie made no sense. It didn't fit into the timeline very well. There's a whole many different scenarios I could have thought of that they could have done to make it better. And since it was Marvel's first lone superhero movie focused on a female protagonist, I wanted the best for it. I used to read it when she was Miss Marvel before we got all politically correct and called her Captain Marvel. So Captain Marvel was somebody else. He was Marvel. It was a dude. But okay, I get it. We do that nowadays. If we don't like your color or your gender, we just swap it and then call it progress. And I'm gonna still be old school and say bull. I don't buy it. So I don't like her. I don't care for the Miss Marvel TV show because it's not aimed at me, and that's fine. So there's people that enjoy the Ms. Marvel one with with Iman in it. That's fine. But
It was cute.
Yeah, it's what it is, right? But there's Tiona Paris is in this, is Monica Rambeau. I do like her, but the problem also is the director. It's Nia DaCosta, and she did Candyman, and she screwed that up. Most of the people I know that like Candyman hate this newer version of Candyman and what they did with them because it was jacked up. So she's got a lot of strikes. Plus, I don't care for this version of the character, and I don't like how this character was thrown on me, and I have to believe certain things because that's how they want it to be done. I think this character deserved a lot more. She deserved her space to be a champion, just like the way Wonder Woman, the first one, was done. And, of course, this wasn't. This was just, let's hurry up and spit out a movie because she's got to fit into Infinity War somehow. But then we got to explain where she was all this time when everybody else was fighting and doing what they were doing in New York. Oh, okay, so you could tell it was just a movie that they were just like, let's dodge this problem, let's dodge this problem, let's dodge this problem, which then made the character so thin and careless. And then the actor didn't do a good job speaking to other people and other things. And so it's kind of like, why would I want to go see a bunch of them? The Marvels may as well be the Eternals. But just these people.
I honestly think the Marvels is going to be the low points in this early part of Phase 5. I have to agree with Zach. Like Ant-Man, I'm kind of in for it. Of all the Marvel movies opening next year, I haven't seen a trailer for the Marvels. To be flat honest, I'm sure that's coming. We'll probably get it before Ant-Man: Quantumania. I want to see that. I want to see Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. The trailer just dropped this last week, and I'm looking forward to that. But it didn't make my list because I'm cautiously optimistic about this. I'm more interested in what James Gunn will do with DC, to be flat honest. But the Marvels, the problem was Captain Marvel was built up to be someone of consequence, and then they completely undercut her. And then Marvel did something else with Black Widow, and just it was a too little too late kind of adventure. Like it almost felt like they were pandering to the female audience.
They were.
Honestly, Marvel's biggest crime right now is it's arguable that they're misogynistic about it, and most people would say they are. And if they're going to reverse that, then they've got to make these characters have some consequence, have some character draw that is universal, like we're talking about with these other movies, and make us want to see it. Because right now, Captain Marvel is, I saw it too. I thought it was entertaining, but it's I returned to it since seeing that movie. And I haven't. I can't say that I have.
Well, because it doesn't add anything to the universe. It doesn't add anything to the universe. If you watched all the Marvel films and didn't watch that film, you wouldn't have missed anything. So it was just another one of those things where they wasted what could have been a great character. And then Marvel's first solo, superhero film because this came out before Black Widow, they had a great opportunity to put women in a better light, but instead they just turned it into a poster to say anything I could do better. Right? She doesn't earn anything in the movie because they don't spend any time showing her what she had to go up against. They just said, see, when she was a kid, this happened to one time because she was a girl. And then that was it. And then after that, we're just supposed to be like, oh, so you just knew that one time to all of a sudden just kind of have this feel for more femininity towards the masculinity. And then you just start doing things just very easily. And then you're the most powerful superhero all of a sudden in all of the Marvel universe. That's what they were touting her. And I'm like, well, that's fine if she really is, but you got to show her earning it. You got to show, not just because she shows up as the poster girl for it, but can we see something about, what was her pain? What was it really like to be her when it was male dominated? Let us feel it. But we didn't. We just were told, yeah, this is why you should hate these people, and this is why you shouldn't like these people, and this is why these people are bad. And I never like those preachy films that are trying to pass themselves off as, no, we're progressive. No, you're actually stimulating the problem to make it worse, because you think you have to downplay something else to make something else great. You haven't figured out how to make both look great and both bring them up at the same pace, right? They haven't figured that out. They only think you have to downplay this group in order to make this group look better, rather than saying, hey, alongside of this group, there's this group that was on the rise, but couldn't because of certain restrictions, but look where they're at now. See, that's how you bring different opposing groups that are extreme, if you will. That's how you bring them together. But you create more of the problem when you go, yeah, look at those bad men and what they did and how they did that to you. It's too simplistic. It's not smart. And she should be much smarter if she's that powerful.
Yeah, and again, I talked about this when we were going over Marvel heroes and things like that and how we could fix the Marvel universe, is the fact that, like I said, what makes me really, really nervous about the Marvels and also Blue Beetle and also Kraven the Hunter all coming out within 2 months of each other.
Yep.
There's no stakes in any of it. You're just basically putting out these properties with no stakes, no bad guys, no discernible threat, nothing to get under, get behind, and get me interested in any of it. It feels like they're going to push out so much product that we're not going to get any story.
It's the Star Wars problem all over
again.
again.
It just makes me so nervous, and that's because I like the Marvel franchise. I like the Marvel CU, but I really think they're about to careen right into a wall.
And that's kind of I think everybody sees that. I think, to be fair, we haven't seen the trailers for any of these movies, so it's really hard. I really don't think it's fair to judge until we've really kind of seen it, or if we're going to see it. Now, whether or not we want to see it from this point forward, yeah, it's pretty clear. I'll tell you flat out, the Venom movies, I skipped. I haven't seen them yet because I don't think, honestly, they're not interesting enough characters to me.
The first one was dreadful.
Yeah, and I heard that. I heard mixed reviews. I heard good things. I heard bad things. The second one, I haven't heard much better about Venom. Kraven is not a character I care about. In fact, I think he's a laughable character.
Absolutely.
In the Rogues Gallery. They haven't given me what they gave me in Spider-Man Homecoming, which was a Vulture I could understand and get behind. Mm-hmm. I could accept as a legitimized villain. Mm-hmm. Now, and so I'll probably skip the Marvels and wait for Disney Plus. I'll probably won't even see Kraven at all necessarily. They're going to have to really work hard to market it to me. But Blue Beetle I'm in, and not just because I'm a DC Films fan, but also because, one, I'm curious how they're going to pull it off with the newest version. This is Blue Beetle 3 in the comics, for those who haven't really invested any time to understand or know the character. I was big in Blue Beetle during the Blue Beetle 2 era, Ted Kord era, during DC Crisis era characters. Mm-hmm. And it's a laughable character. I mean, I still see a Ted Kord Blue Beetle and Booster Gold as a buddy comedy series on HBO Max. I could get behind an animated series where they're basically the Tango and Cash of the DC
universe.
And
we're getting that Penguin TV series too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, we'll see how that turns out. But Blue Beetle, I'm curious about. I can't wait for a trailer. The teaser poster is out, and the Scarab looks cool, but that's just good Photoshop art. So we'll see how that turns out. But until we see a trailer, we'll see how they're going to actually try to market this. We'll see. I didn't even see Morbius. I didn't care.
You mean it's not Mormon time for you, sir? I'm shocked.
Well, see, but that's the issue here. So notice Marvel. Star Wars, both owned by Disney. We saw how they took one of the greatest franchises in the world, Disney, Star Wars, and ran that right into the ground with products, the books, all the stuff that came out alongside of that Star Wars fans complained. They said, "Look, this is too much stuff to take in all at once. I can't get all of this." And then now you're doing the same thing to the Marvel stuff. You're just taking more of what's there. It's almost like at the end, in 20 years, every superhero will have their own movie. That's the rate we're going right now. Almost every character is getting a movie. I'm like, why? Not every superhero character that was created was great. Yep. But because it's a property that hadn't been done yet, maybe we can mine it and get some more money out of it. Well, all we have to do is put an end credit scene at the end of one of the more popular characters, and people go see. And see, when I see all that, I see too much. I see strategy. And I don't like that strategy because I think it's a bad strategy, because what evidence would show us is, no, you have to make things disappear for a while, and then when you bring it back, I don't know, Batman, the prequels. After a long absence, people are thriving. They want it, but when they can have it every day, because they could turn it on here and watch it as a series. They could watch it over here as a movie. They could get over here as a book. They could get over here as the comic book sequel to this. That's too much data coming in all at once, and then your fandoms of many things, not just one thing.
Basically,
so how do you keep up with everything else if Marvel gives you all of this, and Star Wars gives you all of this to keep up with? How do you keep up with all the other stuff you like?
It's basically a race to get to the X-Men.
Right. And so,
yeah,
and
it's the oldest
that's
rule.
what they want.
See, it's the oldest rule in the entertainment business. Leave them wanting more. And every facet of the entertainment business is ignoring that rule right now.
Yes.
Everyone.
Yes, because I don't want any more of these, but I'm going to have to go because evidently at this point what we're saying is that, sorry, we got you. If you liked Civil War, then you're going to have to watch Black Panther. You're going to have to watch Wakanda Forever. You're going to have to watch all these, And I resisted. This is something I say all the time. I'll try to wrap it up fast, but it's like, Kzach knows. It's just when I see patterns, and I look at your patterns and go, if you're doing this to do something better, then cool, keep doing it. But if you're doing this just to be lazy because you can and make money, I mean, we learned that in Spider-Man. Just because you can beat up Flash Thompson doesn't mean you should. Okay, Disney doesn't. Just because you made money off of this obscure character doesn't mean you should put out all the other ones and do movies on them too. So I just hate the idea that it's like that strategy to me sucks. To me, take a break. We had a 7-year break between the last Batman movie and Christopher Nolan's trilogy. Look what happened in that 7 years. New ideas, different things, right? Because the world had changed in that 7 years, and so there's new things you could come at it from. But here, if you're putting out one every other year, nothing's really changed a whole lot in a year from year over year. It's over a span of time. But you look back and go, maybe our movie should be focused on this with the character because this is what people relate to now, right? Like post-pandemic. Movies kind of talking about that we would relate to. Because we all had a hand in that. We all understood what that was like. So to me, I'm just looking at this and I'm just going, man, guys, less is more. Less is more. And I really wish they would do that, but that's not what they see it as. Yep. So with that, I guess we're getting jumped into shout-outs. So Chris, who are you shouting out to, brother?
As always, I'm going to shout out to you and to Zach for welcoming me into and bringing me back to have these great conversations.
Thanks,
and to my family for allowing me the time to do so.
That's so awesome. Thank you for accepting our invitations. We love it. Okay, Zach.
Thank you.
We do want to go ahead and just shout out everyone here on DallasOnAir.com. We do want to shout out Jansen and Kat for giving us a home here every Sunday. And, of course, check out Dallas On Air for all the great stuff that they do have to offer. There's a lot of great shows here, and there's something for everyone. Check out Say Something. Check out Street Gospel. Check out all the great stuff at the camp. Check out all the good stuff that we offer here on DallasOnAir.com. Particularly, one good thing that we do every year, Jansen Cat, the owners of this station, do something called a Very Spidey Christmas, where they do go out, dress up as Spider-Man and Spider-Girl, and go out into underprivileged neighborhoods here in DFW and hand out presents, just hand out toys to kids. It's a really good opportunity for you to not only donate or, like I said, donate toys. You can drop off toys. There's a number of drop-off boxes. You can find drop-off boxes on our Facebook for a Very Spidey Christmas. You can also drop them off here at the studio, 2201 Main Street. And, of course, you can also donate. Go to the GoFundMe for a Very Spidey Christmas. It is an opportunity. The charity that Jansen Cat started, Heroes United, does get involved and just basically gets toys out into the neighborhood for kids who really need them on Christmas Day. It is a really good opportunity for you to give back something. So please check out A Very Spidey Christmas. Find that GoFundMe. Find the Facebook page. And, of course, you can find links to them on our Facebook through DallasOnAir.com.
Yes, and for me, real quick, I'm going to give my shout-out to the original gangster who you guys will see next week. I'm so excited that he will be here. So the film Samurai will be here, so I'm giving him a shout-out now. Stephanie Crane, definitely Cole Houston, and Eddie Medina. Those are my boys and fellow podcasters. Daniel Meza, Troy Ross, Prim, who's also a YouTuber with a channel, and Harry Thomas, who also has a channel. Tristan Frazier, Lauren Wiedauer, Sean Presley, and Brandy and Barry Austin, that movie-loving couple. So with that, I'm just going to tell you, make sure that you're here December 18th, or when that one finally gets posted, which will be on the 19th more than likely if you don't see it live. Make sure you're here because there's going to be greatness all over the place. We're going to have Chris back in the house. We're going to have Horror Mike in the house. We're going to have the OG in the house. And then, of course, Kzach and I will be in the house. And we have a special announcement for you. So with all of that, we're just saying peace.
That's going to be our look back at 2022. We're going to take a look at all the films.
We'll look at 2022 as the year in movies and see what was great and what maybe missed.
Neat.
All right. So with that, we're outie. And so, gentlemen, send off your peace signs.
Deuces.
So, yes.